Airplane mode is for several reasons. What they might say is that it's because they don't want you going into the phone remotely and removing any sort of evidentiary value, right? But also because it could prolong. So if you don't do that and they do want to dump your phone or extract your phone, when I say dump in the comments, it also means extract, same thing the lawyer's saying, so that you can't remotely manipulate that. So, my best guess is that your phone quite possibly could have been dumped, and a public records request for reports written by the investigating officers would be helpful in determining that.
Shout out Mr. Checkpoint. Hey, FTP. There's killers up in these streets. Always film the police. Gotta be our own keepers of peace. Gotta have police, the police. Gotta have police, the police.
Can you share like who you are and what, the comment you might have?
Yeah, absolutely. So Senna and I met not too long ago. I've been up until about a month ago, was a police officer for over 12 years in Oakland and San Francisco. Everything the attorney is saying is spot on. I do have more to add in terms of some of the intricacies. And I had no doubt that the attorney was right. He's the man. If you guys don't follow him online, you need to. Really good info there. Sent it you as well, Mr. Checkpoint. But I absolutely think we could do a video about evidentiary value of the phone and arrest procedures, et cetera, as it pertains to protests.
Can you share specifically, though, regarding the SIM card being out and what that might mean, and it being on airplane mode, and my phone really, I'm not able to get into it because it's disabled? Is this a worry? Should I not have it around me in the car? What are your thoughts?
Airplane mode is for several reasons. What they might say is that it's because they don't want you going into the phone remotely and removing any sort of evidentiary value, right? But also because it could prolong. So if you don't do that and they do want to dump your phone or extract your phone, when I say dump in the comments, it also means extract, same thing the lawyer's saying, so that you can't remotely manipulate that. So, my best guess is that your phone quite possibly could have been dumped, and a public records request for reports written by the investigating officers would be helpful in determining that.
And that's CPRA for people out there who would like to Google it, California Public Records Act.
But not much is saved on the SIM as far as I know, other than like contacts and, right? I mean, so data is saved on your physical phone and then also on your SIM card, right? So if they wrote a search warrant and that search warrant was granted, first of all, I'd love to read it, but it would cover the data on the physical phone, the hardware itself, and the SIM card, if that makes sense. Which is why they had to extract it, right? So they can do multiple extractions from the physical phone and from the SIM.
But why would they take the SIM card out from the phone if it's evidence? And is that, to me, that's kind of an intervention. I'm not clear on that.
Right, separating the two, putting in airplane mode, separating the two would preserve it on their end. I mean, it could be a procedural thing. It could be new technology. It could be extracting from the SIM versus extracting actual from the hardware of the phone.
So your guess, did they see what's on the phone?
I think so. I think it's quite possible. Really hard to say. I mean, my best guess, yeah. And I mean, they know who you are, right? Like, so they could have done it for several reasons. They could have articulated it or tried to articulate it for several reasons, right? Maybe and this is not my justification of their actions. I'm just telling you what I think is possible they might say, right? So because you're out there filming and they know who you are, it's quite possible that they wanted to see what's on your phone to compare it to other evidence that they may have or video that they may have, right? So again, I'm not saying that that's right, but I'm saying that that's one possible reason that they may have done that.
Is it possible we find out if they did get a search warrant to go on the phone? Like, we don't know if they did.
So my experience, and the officer can maybe address it if he's written warrants, I don't know. But
former.
Well, it's like Mr. President anyway. Is that search warrants have a number and they're filed with law enforcement or the courts, and you don't see it unless a case is filed and they use the evidence. So whether that is a public records request, I think they're
TBD.
under seal.
Right.
So,
but you can still request it, and then you could be, you know, you could be blocked, and they'll say, hey, this is sealed, we can't give it to you yet. But because, like you mentioned, they have that 1 year, there's very little they have to give up within that 1 year, because they could, you know, it'd still be under investigation or, you know, pending, etc. Right? There's that 1 year timeline. So until that passes, it's going to be pretty easy for them to give up very little information.
that's why I was hoping that the case, and then I could say, hey, look, this has been formally rejected. So now, why are we holding trial? And in January, when I appeared, I got no case filed. Obviously, we prefer reject. So that's a little backstage about the process that happens, how law enforcement prosecutors work.
Absolutely. And then the other possibility, right, is that they put it on airplane mode, removed your SIM card just to do that, pending a search warrant. Maybe that search warrant wasn't granted, and that's just how they left your phone. That's a possibility too.
I will say though that I'm very confident to assume that they definitely trying to get in via password, because I've never mistyped a password 2 times, 5 times, 6 times, and I've had it make me wait 15.
Right.
So there's definitely something there. Whether I can get in through the password or not will be a thing. I don't know, because I'm putting all the passwords that I imagined it was, they're not working. So I'm like, is it a possibility they like change the password? Like, I have no idea, but it's all actively.
I don't think they can,
No.
but they can circumvent your password using Celebrate tools, which get updated pretty much, you know, every 3 months. There's always, you know, that's for the code people. But they do.
So the other thing I want to add, and you mentioned this, but I think it's important for people to understand, is that, you know, when they declared it an unlawful assembly, you're very clearly asking to be allowed to leave, and they need to grant that. And you know, the attorney said it very, very clearly. You were the only one there by yourself, essentially, right? So, I mean, letter of the law, spirit of the law, allow you to leave, asking you to leave. Your car's right there. They made reference to you standing around for like an hour or whatever, but that it wasn't unlawful at that point. And so I think, you know, it's important for people to understand that, you know, you did clearly ask to leave and you were denied that.
Yeah, and the standing around for an hour, I was physically actually on someone's private property for that time. I mean, that literally was a concerned citizen or person of the community who just said, like, come into my home. I mean, didn't know who I was, just said, whoa, come in here, you know, like literally. And I gave water. I mean, and then I went from there to my car. I mean, essentially. So it's like, it's, yeah. And of course, documenting and filming the whole time. I mean, that was in essence my purpose as well, to be there. Right.
Right. And there's no law against that.
No, exactly. Well, I thank you so much. We definitely, absolutely have to talk more.
Just real quick, 30 seconds.
Yeah, no.
It's interesting to me that he was not booked on PC 148A1, resist, delay, or obstruct a peace officer, which in theory could have been a better theory for them. So I don't know what your thoughts are on
What were the charges? What was he booked on?
9.
Sorry, you broke up.
Yeah, they booked him on a 409, unlawful assembly, failure to disperse. But it seems that the sergeant was really more concerned that this was resist, delay, or obstructing a peace officer
Right.
performance, because he took failure to identify Senate, which, you know, everyone presumably knows who he is, which is what you mentioned.
Right. Right. I mean, and that's something that's like difficult to prove, right? Like that they know, but I mean, common sense tells you that they do. I mean, I've seen a lot. I mean, bro, you know, we've known each other for a little while. I followed your videos. You know, you ask them, hey, do you know who I am? Oh yeah, I know who you are, et cetera, et cetera. And throughout the law enforcement community, I would bet, you know, that they know who you are, especially when you were arrested.
So right, just to like I just want to ask that more specifically though. You think that Sergeant Muller knew who I was before?
I think so.
Interesting. And do you have thoughts on that? An opinion
Well,
towards that?
uh, ever since I stopped being a community organizer, I'm not out in the street. But it appeared to me that Sergeant Mueller was the public information officer and had researched these street assemblies and had been himself at numerous protests. So I would imagine that he might be familiar with my client, who has distinctive logos, etc.
Of course, right. It's the whole, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but like the brand, right? Like the Mr. Checkpoint, the orange, the always from the police, like, whether that's your intention or exactly, right? Exactly. And so that's why I think it's pretty reasonable to think that at least some folks know who you are out there. But again, that's not criminal.
It's also
right.
on the, which
Right.
obviously they saw.
I would love to see the discovery of the arrest, at least of the arrest report when it comes out.
Yeah, well, we'll definitely keep unpacking this as it goes. I really thank you for joining this piece though and sharing. And I want to keep talking with you though, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely, brother. Be good. All right. See ya.
See ya. So that's
It's interesting because the NLG might have a reason to look at these reports as part of their litigation because they have an action pending, and they may have the civil rights lawyers can comment on this, but I'm wondering if they have a right of discovery for these incident reports as part of that, because I don't know if it was just a temporary injunction or if the case is closed in its entirety. And that, again, is for the civil rights bar to address.
I think this is good. I mean, I'm thrilled to have the phone back.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I'm super thankful. I was very hesitant and skeptical. I mean, as you've heard, I've made phone calls to the sheriff's department when they've said they didn't even have my belongings. I mean, literally, I was calling evidence who said they had no belongings for me. I did not think I would be getting this phone back.
Yeah, that's another thing. So when that happened, we got the form, which is a claim form, return of missing or damaged property. And I put that in my most recent letter, actually, that nobody would confirm whether they had items and if they did, what they were. So the last iteration was, we're intending to file that because now we're informed that nothing was booked in. And that could have been part of why they decided to release it. Again, I'm not certain. Sometimes we win and we don't know why. We just know that we win.
Well, thank you, Attorney Rosenberg. Everyone should follow Attorney Rosenberg, Rosenberg. That's the last name, Nicholas Rosenberg. Attorney Rosenberg is his Instagram. He checks his DMs, and I mean, he's been about the community for a long time, and I'm super thankful for his support. I know there's a bunch of you out there that need help, need lawyers. We're in downtown Los Angeles right now. I'm in his office, and I would strongly suggest you let him know what's going on, what issues you have, and I mean, if there's anything else, please share.
Now, the only thing I would say is I'll give a plug to National Lawyers Guild, as well as the ACLU. These are often pro bono civil rights attorneys who have done a lot of great work. I'm a criminal defense attorney, and I don't cross into that realm. This is for gentlemen like Ben Crump, folks like that. So they have definitely been part of this, organizing the same community and filing litigation on behalf of several arrestees. So I want to make sure their efforts have been acknowledged in this chapter as well.